What's going on, world? DS1 Ross, and I'm back here on Sheep Stay Sleep TV, Sheep Stay Sleep podcast. Of course, I got another great brother here with me today, another New York artist, of course, international artist, and I'm blessed to do this interview today. And I got my brother Dolla Skillz here with me, and we definitely gonna get into his MCing, his his music career, and we just gonna get to know the brother a little bit more today. So thank to y'all who's tuning in, everybody who's coming in right now. Make sure y'all hit that like button. And you know how I do this, you know how I do these interviews with the musicians. We start off with a song. So we're gonna start off with this. Y'all tune into this.
As an LMC, I rep for NYC. Faithfully, I recognize and realize that pop's a waste for me. Money don't make me, so it's hard for you to snake me. It'll take some of the best to break me. A masterpiece, an LMC. I rep for NYC. Faithfully, I recognize and realize hip hop a waste for me. Money don't make me, so it's hard for you to snake me. It'll take some of the best to break me. A masterpiece. I mentally possess the brain power of Socrates. I'm deep as the seven seas, manifesting philosophies. I be one of the best, so I can't complain. All I do is campaign. Skills the illest, sipping champagne. Pull guns, I blew flames and burn your accurate aim. And turn your 360 from a loser into a learner on my album release date. Hip hop will meet fate. My recruit will break records and be recognized in each state. My lyrical flow's too hard to battle MCs like you. Who run off gas, so I got intentions to light you. I make the realest nigga lick shots. Should I get enough props? An angel till I hit like dust spots. Don't make it rough, pop. If you wanna be a grandfather, stand father back, son. My mic helps so corny than seeds is getting jacked, son. My inner orbit's nothing but horrors and sick brainstorm. My 45 caliber mental, that lyrical flame burning seeds like oceans. Solar ray burns posters. Brain maintains from hosters. Frame maintain the posters. Trap water like a coast. I mentally comatose ya, so I roast ya. You really can't come any closer. As an LMC, I rep for NYC. Faithfully, I recognize and realize that pop's a waste for me. Money don't make me, so it's hard for you to snake me. It'll take some of the best to break me. A masterpiece, an LMC. I rep for NYC. Faithfully, I recognize and realize hip hop a waste for me. Money don't make me, so it's hard for you to snake me. It'll take some of the best to break me. A masterpiece. So all my hardcore fanatics, breath breathing and habit, just bleeding from the savage thoughts of I gotta have it. Hip hop, I gotta have it. Shred the best of them seeds. You can't ball, you like a dick that ain't got no testes, so don't test me. Lyrically, see me, strategy, casualty. Yo, hold it down. I hold it down so much niggas could call it gravity. I stand strong and seize, I stand long throughout infinite. I'm into the depth seeing, so I'm in it to win it. I step fleeing the scenes, I wreck, seeing the cream, respect, we in the green. I run with queens and kings, never be peasants. The pain never be pleasant as I bless them with the funk effervescence of my aggression. Knowledge the lesson, cause all things have reason, like how do allies exist without the elements of treason? My logic is psychological, the prodigy is prominent. The last nicotines in me must have been dominant, cause everything relates. Domino effect elevates, mental penetrates, character traits disintegrate, rearrange thoughts at the flick of a light switch. 1 minute I'm loose, but I'm really tight as a vice grip. I rip shit from 125 to Central Iceland, and every other place on the planet when I ignite hit. As an LMC, I rep for NYC. Faithfully, I recognize and realize that pop's a waste for me. Money don't make me, so it's hard for you to snake me. It'll take some of the best to break me. A masterpiece, an LMC.
Woo, woo. Man, that's real MCing right there. That's fire, man. That's fire, man. Y'all definitely could leave y'all thoughts on each track in the chat. Very much appreciated. I'd like to welcome my brother Dolla Skillz, home team. We in the building. Shout out to you, bro.
Yeah, man. Salute to you. Shout out to DS1 Sheep Stay Sleep TV. You know what I'm saying? Home team, the co-worker squad, you know, and everybody that supports my good brother here, man. You know, it's a pleasure to be on your show. I know a lot of cats see me support Israel doctrine and probably wonder who I am or don't really know much about me. You know, a lot of agent provocateur stuff goes on in this YouTube world. So I thought that I'd grace my brother DS platform over time. We got the build back and forth, and he seems to be a very good brother to me. So you know, I thought I'd bless you with something exclusive that I really normally don't do on other platforms.
Man, I appreciate it, brother. I definitely appreciate it, man. And I never, you know, you got that hip hop look, but you know, we from New York, so you know, any inner city, a lot of us, you know, we pretty much got that hip hop look. I never thought you know, you'll be an MC, man. Like you're not just a rapper, you an MC. I could tell you're you perfected your flow. You know, I could tell that you're definitely into lyrics. You know, you're not just into making a hot song. You want people to really listen to what you say. So you know, tell me real quick, like what's some of your MC influences?
Oh man, well, the first song you played is a song Masterpiece. It was released actually many years ago in 1999. I wrote that song when I was about 15 years old. I would be what some would consider a child prodigy in the hip hop world. I was looked at as very talented at that young age of 14, 15, and 16. So Masterpiece was a song I wrote roughly around 1997. Back then, music wasn't pushed out as fast as it is now. So it took about 2 years for that record to get recorded, mastered, pressed up, and released. So the official release of it was in 1999. It was on an independent record label out of Amityville, Long Island, by the name of Born to Rock Records. It was a grassroots record label that was started by some cats that I met growing up in one of my second homes. I'm originally from Far Rockaway, Queens, grew up in areas of Brooklyn, and later migrated to Long Island, where, you know, when I hit the street corners rapping at 14 in 1996 and 97, I was rhyming like a Nas, but with my own flow at 14 and 15. So many of my influences would be artists like Redman. He was a heavy influence on me. Mobb Deep, of course, you know, the whole Shook Ones era, RIP The Prodigy, and who else? Wu-Tang, of course, 1993, Wu-Tang, Biggie Smalls. Um, but yeah, man, the artists that were really like funkadelic, like a Redman, Keith Murray, and those different type of groups, the lyricists, those were the cats that I gravitated more to. Boot Camp Click, Helter Skelter, OGC, and you know the cats that kept that grassroots underground feel is pretty much what inspired me as a young lyricist to come up with a song like Masterpiece at such a young age.
Yeah, man, that song is fire, man. It's packed with lyricism and knowledge, and you know, that's ill for you to be rapping at that age. I definitely, you know, could understand, you know, what people were saying as far as the Nas thing. You said you originally from Far Rockaway. You know, one of my favorite lyricists was from out there too, Stack Bundles. So how you felt about Stack? You know, rest in peace, Stack Bundles. How you felt about Stack Bundles?
Yeah, man, I really, you know, at that time in hip hop, I definitely was messing with Stack Bundles, but that's where not so much his music, but I started to lose love in hip hop. Like a lot of things had changed. I witnessed a lot of things change. And believe it or not, another brother that's from Far Rockaway, Chinks Drugs, he was also frequented in Amityville, who passed away as well. So there's a connection there with Chinks Drugs. Chinks Drugs' second home was Amityville, Long Island, New York. If you go search on YouTube right now, you'll see a dedication track to the brother Chinks Drugs done by an artist by the name of Doughboy. And that pretty much got a lot of views because of Chinks being born from in Far Rockaway and then moving to Amityville, a lot like I did, believe it or not. So Chinks has like a a double history that most people don't touch on. But Amityville, Long Island is also home to a lot of known MCs. De La Soul is from Amityville. The group Stethosonic, Prince Paul, who a lot of people may remember from the group The Grave Diggers. He's responsible for changing hip hop in regards to some of the first albums to ever have skits on it. Of course, everybody knows De La Soul, who brought in the Daisy era, Native Tongue, Tribe Called Quest, Leaders of the New School, as well as a host of other things that Amityville brought. But in regards to your initial question, I thought Stack Bundles was fire, man. It was a loss in hip hop, and it's always sad to see when talented brothers himself, Tupac, Big L, and a lot of brothers that could have brought so much more to the hip hop community, pass untimely due to those type of circumstances. So all day, Stack Bundles was definitely that dude. It's just that in that era of his rise, I wasn't so into hip hop because of a lot of the bounce and trap stuff that took over from the eras where the lyricism thrived.
Got you. I got you. I totally understand that. So where did you get your name from? Dolla Skillz. Is that your? I see that's your MC name too. So what made you come up with Dolla Skillz?
Yeah, well, originally, I started off, picking out names that were very common. My original rap name was Dollar Bills. Everybody's heard that term before. Now remember, this is roughly about, I want to say 1994, maybe even 1993, when I took on the moniker Dollar Bills. A cousin of mine's heard me rap maybe about a year and a half later, let's say around 1994, 95. And he was like, yo, you got skills. You Dollar Skillz now. And it was like, oh, wait, you know what I'm saying? Like, you heard a lot of dudes say dollar bills, or a lot of dudes, even later, many years later in hip hop, you've heard of a lot of dollars. But I never heard someone put together the dollar with the skills. And this is actually before Mad Skillz, the rapper, dropped his first single. I was known as Dollar Skillz in my hometown in Long Island, Amityville. So the name was given to me by a cousin of mine's. Originally, my rap name was Dollar Bills, 1993, 94. By about 95 is when I took on the moniker Dollar Skillz, and it's been that ever since.
Dope. That's dope. I like how because it's like your name is balanced. You got the material and then you got the mental. So I like that. That's ill. But my next question is what made you move to Long Island? Because I notice a lot of people move from Brooklyn, and a lot of people go out to Long Island, and it's like it's harder. I think it's kind of harder coming out of Long Island to be recognized today in the game, because my homie that I interviewed, he's originally from Brooklyn, but he moved to Long Island when he was young too. And it's kind of hard coming out of Long Island now. I don't really, hear a lot of people rep Long Island, and I just don't see that being a popular place where a lot of artists come from nowadays. What do you think is the reason for that?
Well, I think really that's a misconception. I think hip hop has, of course, everyone gives the Bronx the credit for the inception of hip hop music. Groups like Africa Bambaataa, Soul Sonic Force, Kool Herc, etc., etc. But there's an alternate hip hop that was created in Long Island through groups like EPMD, Public Enemy, everybody knows, Craig Mack, Biz Markie. These were the groups that actually changed hip hop, in my opinion, for the better, but brought an awkward sound to New York-based hip hop. If you remember, De La Soul's first album sold 4 million records worldwide. It changed hip hop as we know it. It was almost like an alternative hip hop created out of Long Island. And then when you look at EPMD and groups like Stethosonic, Long Island has been on the map. It's just that in the New York scene of things, the more publicized places would be Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Staten Island, mainly through Wu-Tang. But prior to that, most cats wasn't even repping Staten Island. It was Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, the Bronx. Long Island was looked at as the more of a laid-back environment, because as opposed to being raised in like Queens and Brooklyn in the projects and things, Long Island has a more flat terrain, a lot of homes with backyards and things of that nature. But don't sleep, because again, if you really look into the history of hip hop, every time hip hop morphed into something else, 9 out of 10 times it was a Long Island artist that did it, be it EPMD, De La Soul, which De La Soul, as I spoke earlier, created the native tongue. That gave life to Tribe Called Quest, which later became Leaders of the New School, Busta Rhymes, which later became what we know as Neo Soul, Erykah Badu, the Bilals, and the Southern-based R&B Neo Soul artists were really bred from an era called the Daisy era via De La Soul, who, like I said, sold 4 million records. They were the first host of Yo MTV Raps before MTV would even play a hip-hop record, and they brought in the Yo MTV Raps era. The first group to host the first season was De La Soul, and that whole season was hosted at different locations in Amityville, Long Island. So Amityville is really slept on, as well as Long Island in a lot of ways. And let me not forget, I can't forget, the guard Rakim is from Wyandanch, Long Island, which is like 2 or 3 towns away from Amityville. So we got Rakim. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you really look at the list of artists that come from Long Island, New York, it'll blow you away, because every time Long Island pushed out an artist, though not as frequent as Brooklyn and Queens, their artists would change the entire face of hip hop music every time.
Damn, that's interesting, man. That's a great point too, because you know, I'm a little bit younger, but I do know, you know, like EPMD, they did bring a different type of music to hip hop. You know, I noticed too, like a lot of those groups, they brought fun to music. They brought a different level of creativity. They just weren't gritty, and they weren't you know, just hardcore artists. They brought a different form of creativity and a different form of artistry. And you're right, those people did inspire a lot of the other guys that were coming up to be more creative, to have more fun in their music, and to basically expand their scope, you know, and stop being just, you know, limited to the hardcore lyrics playing in the park, standing on the corner drinking 40s type of music. So that's interesting that you brought that up, bro.
Exactly. It's like a lot of cats don't know there's different stages in the eras of the commercialization of hip hop music. That's not to take anything from Run DMC. When they did songs like Walk This Way and My Adidas, as well as LL Cool J, which is some of the first artists to sign to Def Jam Records, those were commercialized records that sold big numbers. I think back then, Run DMC sold 2 million records. But it wasn't until the Daisy era brought in by De La Soul, when they went 4 times platinum and brought in, like you said, the more fun, commercialized hip hop, that hip hop began to truly expand internationally and pull in different types of major corporations to back it. Like, because I grew up in Amityville, you know, I grew up under Maceo and De La Soul. I was there when Mos Def got put on. Like, a lot of people don't realize that De La Soul gave birth to Mos Def and Talib Kweli. Though they from Brooklyn, they came up under the Native Tongues, who was already established through Tribe Called Quest, etc. So I was there when Mos Def got his first record deal. You know, I seen Mos Def come into his success and later become an actor and all of those things, just growing up in Amityville, which to a lot of artists who don't understand like the whole New York politics, yeah, it's tougher to be a Long Island artist and kind of get the respect in New York, but you'll be surprised, because Long Island is a smaller place, you will grace more stars when you live in certain neighborhoods in Long Island. Like, for instance, Rakim is from Wyandanch, New York. That's a 15-minute Ville. Then you got De La Soul. Then you have the group Stethasonic and Prince Paul. Prince Paul was the first person to ever sample an old funk record into hip hop. Prior to that, hip hop was all organic with drum machines and synthesizers and things of that nature. They were the first to take the sample and loop a sample into a record. So these are like staple things in hip hop music that commercialized and opened up doors for other old artists to make money. And all of those things were made by a Long Island artist. And I say that to say this, it's mainly because when you live in Long Island in New York, you 45 minutes from Manhattan. So you got the New York swag. But because of the atmosphere, the houses and the backyards and the backyard parties and things of that nature, you got a slight bit more time to think as opposed to living in like a Queens or Brooklyn. So again, it produced like an awkward style of MCs from the Rakims, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how I view hip hop politics in New York. You got the Bronx who started it, but if you look at the history, every time hip hop made a turn for the left, it was a Long Island artist that really re-commercialized it and brought something different.
Right, right. If I'm not mistaken, bro, isn't Keith Murray from Long Island too?
Yeah, he's from Central Islip, Long Island. That's like literally maybe 2 or 3 more towns to the east of Wyandanch. So again, you got EPMD, Keith Murray, you got, forget it, the list is endless. Rakim, you got Stethosonic, you got the group Groove Be Chill. If everybody ever watched the movie House Party, when the guy keeps bumping the table, when I think it's Martin Lawrence is DJing, that's Groove Be Chill. They're from Long Island. These are all groups that came from Biz Markie, Long Island, Public Enemy, Professor Griff, etc., Long Island. Even Busta Rhymes, though he claims Brooklyn, he Long Island. A lot of those brothers were able to capture those type of styles by coming out to the east end of New York on the island and getting that time to think while still maintaining the New York flavor. And that's what made them so original, because they had that split second to think. And it helped influence me a lot through my music, being able to get in a car and be in Queens or Manhattan in a matter of minutes and then turn around and be back in Long Island in 45 minutes.
Right, right, right. So you said that.
Wait, give me 1 second, bro. Go ahead. Talk. Give me one.
No doubt, no doubt. Shout out to everybody for tuning in, man. I'm getting a lot of, I'm getting a lot of rap history from my man Dolla Skillz, man. So I definitely appreciate it, for having this interview, being able to do this interview, man. Every time I play a track, in the chat, y'all can leave y'all messages and let the brother know how y'all feel about it, man. It's much appreciated. So shout out to everybody in the chat. If you just coming through, make sure y'all hit that like button. It'll be very
I'm back,
much
my brother. I apologize. I got stuff going on, but I'm here.
Man, it's all good, bro. So my next question is, and then we're gonna take a little intermission and hit them with another track. But I see you said the first song Masterpiece you made when you was 15. So when did you originally start rapping? Like what age did you say I want to rap?
The first time I put a pen to a pad, I would say I was about 13 years old. Now, you had asked this question, I didn't answer it. How I wound up in Long Island, New York is I was put in foster care. I was a foster care kid. So because I was well known in New York City for cutting school and getting on the trains, I'll be honest, my childhood was spent a lot like the movie Juice. Everything you seen them doing Juice, short of robbing the liquor store and all of that, me and my friends was doing that growing up in Brooklyn. Hopping off the back of trains, jumping buildings, going to arcades, doing different things of that nature. Everything you seen basically in Juice was pretty much the real life of a kid growing up in New York City. So a lot of that stuff was the things I was doing. And I cut so much school in the 5th grade that it put the Child Protective Services on my peoples. So they put me and my brothers and sisters in foster care, and they didn't want us to stay in the city because they knew that I would hop on the train and go right back to where my parents lived. So they brought me to Amityville, Long Island, New York. And all I had was the pen and the pad. So roughly about 13, I started reading encyclopedias. A lot of what Keith Murray was doing with his raps, I'm mythological, niggas. I was doing that before Keith came out when I was 13 years old. That's what made me the child prodigy I was. By the time I let people hear me rap on the street corners in Amityville, Long Island, my name spread to the point where known artists would come through the community to try to sign me to their record labels. Maceo from De La Soul wanted me to sign to his company, Bear Mountain Entertainment. Craig Mack, RIP to Craig Mack. Craig Mack was told about me, and I ran around with Craig Mack for some time. He had Mack World Entertainment roughly around the time he fell out with Puff Daddy. I was supposed to be the first artist on Craig Mack's record label. So I'm not just an artist that was doing this thing and failed in the hip hop industry. I grew up and was raised by real hip hop legends. When I was 15 years old, 16 years old, I was in studios with Craig Mack and Foxy Brown while he was recording the second album. Then later I got up with Maceo from De La Soul, and I was with Mos Def and a lot of those guys and watching how they record and things of that nature. The biggest reason why I would say I didn't necessarily get signed to them was the red tape with the state of New York and me being a foster care kid. But everybody wanted to sign me because before Shaheem the Rugged Child came out with Wu-Tang, I was rapping like Nas. Before Little Bow Wow graced the stage and did the Bounce With Me record that everybody knows Little Bow Wow to be so talented and have done, I was already rapping to the level of a Nasty Nas at age 15. So it was just, you know, certain circumstances allowed me to be around those brothers, but it never panned out into a specific record deal, which later I started my own company. And I guess we'll get into that stuff, you know, in a little bit. But I did do a lot of other things in the hip hop game. I co-owned a German-based magazine for hip hop. I sent some of the known artists in the hip hop game overseas for their first time. I've cut some ringtones for some big hit songs throughout the company that I created a little bit later in my hip hop career. But you know, I'm getting ahead of myself. But that pretty much is when I started, about 13 years old. Is when I picked up the pen and pad and I hit the street corners and let cats hear what I had when I was about 14. So between like 1993 and 95 was when my name was ringing bells from Long Island all the way to really parts of Brooklyn and Queens and things of that nature, because I was so young and they never seen somebody that young rap at that level.
Yeah, definitely, bro. We definitely gonna get into you know, the particulars on the other things you just had brought up, you know, a little bit later in the interview. But shout out to everybody in the chat once again. Thanks for tuning in. I'm about to play another track on our quick intermission. And like I said, you know, leave y'all comments in the chat and let the brother know, show the brother some love for his songs. And you know, be honest. Let y'all, you know, let us know if you like it. Let us know what you like about it. And we're gonna come back and continue this interview.
Real quick, if you playing the second track, Life Is, so the people are aware, this song Life Is, this is many years later from Masterpiece. The song Masterpiece was recorded when I was 15 and released in 1999. The song he's about to play, Life Is, was featured on Playboy's The Mansion video game. It was released on the PlayStation 2, the first Xbox and PC systems. Roughly about the year 2007. So this is one of two songs that was featured on a PlayStation release. It sold over 500,000 copies worldwide, and two of my songs was featured in it. This is one of them. It's called Life Is.
Yo, Dolla Skillz for mayor, I'm talking to the streets. Listen up, cats need cleats just to step into these beats, step in the heat. The weapon that I'm repping is deep. It's like AIDS, no, you got it, you ain't slept in a week. Now I flip my words and I twist my verbs. Fans and fiends, raps is crack, get my disc you serve. If you disrespect me, you'll get kicked to the curb. Hit with a click by a kid from the verb, so don't get on my nerves, cause life is strange. It's like the rain, it might be fame, beating on my window, pain. But when I get up, I won't get down. I'm not looking left, right, just straight, never turn off. round. Hey yo, I got a little joke for two cats who walked up to me, and one said that the other guy is as dope as you. The punchline is that what I told him back is he's whacked. He's swinging back like a pair of open-toed shoes. Who's the illest rapper? Matter of fact, I'll go when you go and we'll look at the floor to see who's killer actor. Not a million rappers wrapped in a real disaster could ever come out of this game and be as ill as the master. Cause life is strange. It's like the rain. It might be pain beating on my window pane. But when I get up, I won't get down. I'm not looking left, right, just straight, never turn around. Yo, now the game is over, cause my name's Dolla Skillz stuck in your brain like the bang of a cobra. I'm a malagrator, raps annihilate a cat and strike back like bites from alligators and bats. When I spit my saliva, stay stable in lava. The flow sprays like a cave when it's aimed at your noggin. Anybody in my way get grazed in the margin, whoever stays that gets played if I blaze into squadron. Cause life is strange. It's like the rain. It might be pain beating on my window pane. But when I get up, I won't get down. I'm not looking left, right, just straight, never turn around. Life is strange. It's like the rain. It might be pain beating on my window pane. But when I get up, I won't get down. I'm not looking left, right, just straight, never turn around. Life is strange. It's like the rain. It might be pain beating on my window pane. But when I get up, I won't get down. I'm not looking left, right, just straight, never turn around.
Now, that's another fire track, man. I definitely, you know, I like the flow. I definitely like the beat. I definitely like, you know, I like how the beat broke down, and you had the female on there that made the song, you know, much cooler, man. So I'm gonna ask you, how was you able to get your song placed on a video game?
All right. Well, like I was saying, after growing up under the hip hop artists, things not panning out. I was also very blessed to grow up in Amityville with some break dancers. And I started a company by the name of Time Signature Production with two brothers I grew up with. They're part of a legendary breakdance crew in New York by the name of the Step Fiends. Now, if you type the Step Fiends, Step Fiends, pronounced F-E-N-Z, not spelled the normal way Fiends is, you're going to find a slew of B-boys who at one point in hip hop took the Rocksteady at the Rocksteady. The Step Fiends breakdance crew beat Rocksteady at the Rocksteady, if I'm not mistaken, in the year of 1995. This is what thrust my later to be business partners into the arena of dance choreography and video making. They did so many videos I couldn't name. One of them was the Jay-Z Sunshine video with Foxy Brown, Mobb Deep, Mariah Carey. When I was 15 years old, they brought me on the set of the Firm Biz video shoot with Nas, Foxy Brown, and AZ. And these were childhood friends that believed in my rap skills, that being dancers and being on so many sets, they would try to bring me to different locations to let people hear how good I was. And we later started a company together in the year 2000 by the name of Time Signature Productions. After starting that company, a good friend of ours by the name of DJ Excess, he's the international DJ champion. Don't quote me for what year, but he's a Filipino DJ that won the internationals for best DJ in every country in the world. He was a good friend of ours. He had a side deal with a company by the name of Rules to have his own radio station in the video game. And by him running the entire specific station in the video game, I was able to get the song Life Is you just played, as well as another song by the name of The Up Jump placed on the Playboy Mansion video game. And in all actuality, the way you were able to play the song, I don't even have copies of these songs anymore. These are actual fans of the video game that put these songs on YouTube after listening to the video game and liking the songs. They made their own little pages, and it was able, I was able to keep these songs in my archives, because later on I left hip hop music alone, and all my CDs and things of that nature that I had of songs, a lot of it got lost in the source. There's songs that people will probably never hear from me, because by the time the year 2007 hit, when that song came out, I had probably recorded about 4 unreleased albums in total of songs that people never heard, because my first official album never was released, only singles.
So what happened to your music? Like, far as, did you have any publishing? Did you have any of your masters? Like why did you lose so much of your music and wasn't able to recover it? Like, did you have any, what happened to you? Were you in any contracts? What happened to your catalog of music to where you couldn't possess it?
Well, some of it, no, I wasn't signed to any contracts. Some of it was just moving around and being careless as an artist. Like, you got to realize, I've been rapping since I was 13 years old. I'm in my 30s now. So just years and years of recording. Some of the music was recorded in the tape deck era. Like, CDs had just came in not too long ago. The first record you played in 1999 was pressed up on vinyl. That was probably the last era of vinyl, because shortly after, in the 2000s, CDs came into play. But tapes were still in a lot of people's cars and stuff. So like, a lot of the masters and things of that nature were on what people know as ADATs and things of that nature. And as music started to evolve into different forms of capturing music, those things either got lost, certain studios where they were recorded shut down, and a lot of things got lost in the source. Like, in all honesty, as you get later into my music, a lot of that music was forced. When I was younger, I was the rawest version of myself, because I could make music the way I wanted. As I started to get older, I had to be more conformative to the music industry and make songs that, if you listen to the younger Dolla Skillz, I probably would have never made this type of song. But it was because of the ways that the music industry evolved and changed. The South got more popping. You had to make bounce tracks, or you had to come up with something that was just so original that it wasn't bounce, but it still had to fit into a certain pocket. So that's when I started to like fall out of love with the music game, because I was forced into doing songs and things that I never would have thought about making. Now, don't get me wrong, I made some fire tracks in those eras, but if you really got the real me, I would have never made certain songs outside of the fact that the game was changing. So a lot of this stuff, to answer your question, got lost because of the formats at which they were being recorded at. And then other things I just left totally behind when I said, I'm not going to mess with the rap business, and I'm going to do something else. And, we'll get to that, I guess, shortly, but that's pretty much the answer on that.
Wow. That's interesting, man. And I noticed, with a lot of, independent artists and things like that, a lot of that stuff, usually happens too. They lose a lot of music, and I think sometimes that can kind of, it could kind of not hurt, but it could kind of make people not know who you are. It could kind of like sweep you under the rug, because that happened to a lot of dope MCs. There's a lot of dope MCs out here that happened to, and then they pretty much go unheard of again. And it's hard for you to ever get their music again. And they was dope dudes. Like, there's a lot of artists that I liked when I was younger that I can't find a lot of their music on YouTube. I can't find a lot of their music in stores or anything no more, like you said, because of the formats, the way music was made back then, and the fact that a lot of the artists, I feel like the artists should have made sure that their music was able to be transferred into that new form that people was you know, gravitating to, because I like music to where some days I wake up and I want to hear some older music. I want to hear that MCing, them old school beats with all the samples in it. You know, I want to wake up and hear Shaheem. You know, I want to wake up and hear Camp Low. You know, I want to wake up and hear these things, but it's harder to find, you know, the unreleased stuff. It's harder to find the stuff that we heard back then, you know, and it's because of some of the things that happened to you. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, you hit it right on the nose. Like I said, a lot of this music, the first two songs you played, you only would have been able to play them based on the fact that fans of mine throughout the years put them on YouTube. The first song, Masterpiece, was a record that was released in '99, like I said, and we pressed up, I want to say, about 3,000 of those records. Those records were shipped over to Europe because at that time we were trying to get the record to DJs. We didn't care about having one for ourselves. We cared more about the DJs having them. So a Crate of Records wound up in Amsterdam. And years later, as you said, there was someone who created a blog in Amsterdam, like, where is this rapper Dolla Skillz from the 90s? We haven't heard anything from him. He disappeared off the face of the hip hop scene, not knowing that I was still around in the 2000s doing the music I was doing, hosting radio, which we'll get into in a minute. But that's how the song got put up, because somebody got a record over in Amsterdam, made a hip hop blog about 90s rappers that were lost. And I was one of those rappers, and they were like, who's this kid that made the Masterpiece song? He was ill, but we never heard nothing else from him. So you hit that on the nose.
Definitely, definitely. So we're going to take another music break, y'all. We appreciate all the love and the support. We appreciate everybody for listening right now. And we're going to take another music break, play another song for my brother Dolla Skillz, and then we're going to get into the second half of the interview. So y'all tune in.
Real quick, let me say this. If you about to play I Got What I Need, this record, for the people listening, is probably my most commercial record ever released. It was actually on sale on iTunes and SoundCloud and different websites that sell music. This was released under my own imprint, roughly about 2009. And I would say this is my most radio-friendly song. It was produced with a singer out of Canada by the name of Nomad at the time. He was a singer-producer that wrote the hook and gave me the actual track. And it's called I Got What I Need.
So let's get into it, y'all. I got what I need.
I ain't got a lot of cheddar, I ain't got a whole lot of material things, no diamonds and rings, but I got what I need. Man, I got what I need. No, man, I gotta tell you that I'm riding in a Cadillac and sitting on chrome, just trying to get home. Holla, holla, holla. What I need. Holla, 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 holla. As long as you're with me, baby. I don't got no money in the bank, but there's gas in my tank, and I got a little bit of tank. So I thank the Lord for the things that I got, even though I don't have a lot. Somebody just got shot around the corner from my block. Do you really think that you hot? Do you really think that you can get on the mic and blow the spot like I blow the spot? Do you rock soda pop raps to get your stacks? I ain't make one single dime when I spit a rhyme, but I know if I wait with a little time and fade, I'ma take what I got to get what I need, and then I'm straight. So if you sit and stay, I promise you, baby girl, I'ma make a different way. That's why I sit and say, I ain't got a lot of cheddar, I ain't got a whole lot of material things, no diamonds and rings, but I got what I need. Girl, I got what I need. I ain't gotta tell you that I'm riding in a Cadillac and sitting on phone, just trying to get home. Cause I got what I need, as long as you're with me. Yeah, you work hard every day when you at your 9 to 5. I'll be in the studio trying to make a better life. Sometimes it goes good, sometimes it goes bad. Sometimes I come home with a hot song. Sometimes I come home mad, but yet and still you gon' chill by the side of your man. You gon' ride if I'm broke or ride when I make it to my plan. Whether we in the dirt or got our feet inside the sand, I thank God above, cause this woman always shows me love. Now there's money inside the bank, and there's gas for 2 tanks, and a whole lot of that good dank. So I thank the Lord for the things that He gave, and all this money we made. I'm so glad that you stayed. So feel me, baby, when I say that I ain't got a whole I ain't got a whole lot of material things, no diamonds and rings, but I got what I need. Girl, I got what I need. I ain't got a million that I'm riding in a Cadillac and spitting on phone, just trying to get home, cause I got what I need, as long as you're with me. Yeah, I ain't got a lot of material things, no diamonds and rings, but I got what I need. I got what I need.
That was fire. That was fire. I love, you know, I'm glad, I was able to definitely, I appreciate listening to this type of music, man, because this is the type of music and the form of artistry that I grew up on listening to. This is the type of music that made me fall in love with hip hop. Now I pretty much like, some of the music that come out now, but it's pretty much programming. When you hear something over and over and over and over, it's like they forcing you to like it. Back then with this type of music, you had so much choices. Everybody was so different. You like you said, you had your De La Souls, you had your EPMDs, but then you had Helter Skelter, you had Smoother Hustler. You had the Wu-Tang, you had Big, you had Pac. It was a plethora. You didn't have to just go one way. It's like music now is everything is the same format. Everybody raps on the same BPM. Everything is just one way. It's unilateral. It's going one direction. There's no more creativity. And is that one reason why you step back from the music industry?
To a degree, yeah, that's a big reason why. Even though I Got What I Need, I think it's a very friendly song. It's not even really a song I would have made if it wasn't for the changes in hip hop. As I was saying earlier, I was more into making gritty rap like you hear on Masterpiece. Even Life Is, that was me kind of more playing around with different sounds and different style producers that make quirky beats that nobody would generally touch, kind of like a Busta Rhymes, but trying to be original. But I Got What I Need was like a forced song, but it was just so hot that I just had to jump on that. And the producer was feeling other songs that I was doing. So he was like, yo, I got this song that I think will be perfect for you. And he sent me over the beat from Canada, and it was like I hopped on it. And once so many people at that time was hearing it, they were like, this is the record, because it touched a certain element of coming from a struggle, making it through a system, which is really a big reason why I left rap music alone, the system, the mess that's associated with it. So that definitely was a song that wouldn't have necessarily came out if it wasn't for the changes at that time that was going in hip hop. But it's one of my favorite songs in retrospect, because it's one that I tell people, you could play that for your kids, you could play that for your grandparents. I made sure not to curse. I made sure to keep the message real, and the beat and the singing by the brother Nomad was so tight that it's just something that was universal. And by the way, Masterpiece is how I met my good brother Rock from Helter Skelter. When Rock from Helter Skelter heard Masterpiece back in 1999, he was like, "You the illest young cat I ever heard." And me and Rock from Helter Skelter been tight ever since then. So I was raised on another prong back in Brooklyn by Rock, Starang. Those are like brothers of mine that I came up in the hip hop game with. So I was blessed to be raised by hip hop legends. First by cats like De La Soul and Craig Mack, and then later on by Rock and Starang and OGC. These are the cats that raised me in hip hop. So I got to sit around the legends as a dope MC myself, and it gave me a different perspective than a lot of artists would have coming up in the hip hop game.
Definitely, definitely. My next question is, why do you feel like you couldn't adjust to the new sound that, you know, a lot of the record labels was trying to push hip hop in the direction to go to? Like, why did you feel like you wanted to just make only one type of you know, one form of hip hop?
Well, in all honesty, I was making those type of songs. It was more forced. And, you know, I guess I'll get into this part of like leading into why I left hip hop music alone. At the time of about 2000 and I want to say 6, 7, round about the time I did the video game songs, I began to host hip hop radio on worldcastradio.com. Basically, me and my business partners, the two B-boys from the Step Fiends, came up with a formula similar to the one like Ludacris, where I will become a radio personality in order to bridge the gap between other artists in the music business, and not be looked at as such a competitor, because, you know, hip hop is competitive. So a lot of people, because of my talent growing up, there were times I would be blocked because cats didn't want to see a new cat as young as I was come out and shine. So as I got older, started my own company, we decided to deal in the terrestrial radio world, and we started to push out mixtapes. My mixtapes under my company, Time Signature, began to make the press. DJ Trey Under, who was my DJ, we were the last in New York to push mixtapes. After DJ Drama was raided, a lot of the big mixtape DJs like K Slay fell back from the bootlegging of mixtapes. We kept pushing promotional mixtapes, and with DJ Trey Under, my DJ, we made best hip hop mixtape in the country, Source Magazine. We made history in the Source with 2 mixtapes from one DJ in one issue. Double XL. We were Rap City in the Basement's best mixtape in the country. We did Terminology's mixtape. We also was MTV Direct Effects best mixtape in the country. We were making a lot of press with our promotional mixtapes. And DJ Trey Under, being my artist, I actually my DJ part me, as well as signed to my label as a DJ. And believe it or not, I met Trey Under when I was signed, or in the preparing to sign to Craig Mack. That's how I met Trey Under. Many years earlier, when I was running with Craig Mack, Trey Under was a singer. He wasn't DJing. He became a DJ years later and then came back around. We reconnected, and him and my partner started to work on his mixtapes. And then we started to make all of this press. MTV, BET, as I said, Source Magazine, Double XL. And from doing that, I began to host radio. Now, in my 4 years of hosting radio, I've interviewed numerous artists from French Montana, Jeremiah, Jizzleman from the group That Franchise Boys, Sirius Jones, Mano, Sop Boys, and I mean, just a list of other things. I had my own segment on the radio show, Holla at a Dollar Model segment, where I would bring different models from urban media onto my show, porn stars, all of that. So 4 years of doing a weekly 2-hour radio show, I have a history and list of artists that I've worked with. And simultaneously, while I was doing that, one of my business partners was going back and forth to Germany. He secured a deal for us to co-own a German-based hip-hop magazine by the name of flavormag.de. So we began to bridge the gap by combining the elements of hip hop, me being the artist, my DJ Trey being the DJ, and my business partners being the break dancers. And we started to put together packages for known artists in the industry, whereas we would give them radio promo, feature them in our German-based magazine. And through doing all of that, we wound up opening other doors for certain artists to go overseas by promoting them in foreign countries where they really hadn't captured those markets yet. For instance, Sirius Jones, the battle rapper, went to Europe for his first time based on relationships my company created through our magazine and my radio show, as well as Mano. Mano was easy because he had the record with T-Pain. All of the Above, if I'm not mistaken, was the title of it. But we were the ones who broke his record on German-based radio stations, had him in our magazine, which opened up the show promoters to bring him over to Europe. He later went to South Africa because of certain situations that we had established. And then we winded up cutting ringtones for artists. So the song High Hater, if everybody remembers High Hater, my company that I started with my two business partners, we cut the ringtone for the single High Hater. The only reason it wasn't a major success for us was because the record label kind of dropped the ball and they didn't drop the ringtone until well after the single was already hot on the radio. So we didn't do the type of numbers that it could have did because we had to argue with them so much about the technology. It took them months before they decided to enter into the ringtone deal. So we were able to create opportunities for artists in the States to go to Europe and make money that on the foreign exchange was up on the dollar. So all of these things were culminating. I was hosting radio. I had songs that I was putting out through my own label. We had mixtapes that were making the press. We were cutting mixtapes for known artists. We did Guru, rest in peace, from Gangstar's last mixtape before he passed away, 50 tracks, DJ Trey under Time Signature Productions, as well as many other things. But at that time, that's when I fell out with one of my business partners. That's one of the reasons why I left music. But the second one is a little more intricate. It kind of involves what brought me to this whole YouTube world. And, you know, people see me with Israel Doctrine and things of that nature. A big reason why I left music alone is because I began to see the societies, i.e. secret societies, and the different things that you have to do in order to be that truly successful artist. Like, I was always a dope artist. I always was working with artists that were in the industry. But as I got older and began to learn more about certain situations that I had sat inside when I was younger, I could retrospect certain movements and things that one must do in order to reach the heights of success that you see a lot of artists reach. There's a lot of backdoor things and policies and organizations that are sitting behind these big record companies. And if you don't play certain games and you're not willing to roll with certain punches, then you might as well fall back from trying to get into this industry, because that's pretty much who runs the music industry. You know, different societies and different people and things of that nature. So that was one of the main reasons. One, I fell out with a business partner of mine in my company, which kind of made me look back at a lot of things. And then two, a lot of the things that I had witnessed and seen that I really didn't want to be involved with. So what I did was, now I help people build companies. So I'm not going to get too much into this part of it, but I will say I'm still involved in music, and I'm helping a known person in the music industry build a company as we speak. These are a lot of the things I don't talk about in, so to speak, a Israel Doctrines chat or in your chat. But I'm still involved with music. I'm just not the guy that's going to take the stage, so to speak. And I haven't recorded a rap song in over 8 years, if you want to know the answer. I haven't been in a studio and laid one vocal or lyric or on a track in over 8 years.
Wow. And you know, when I first met you, you know, through Israel Doctrine and stuff like that, you know, shout out to him, you know, because he's an MC too. But I did notice, you know, what drew me into you was the fact that you had so much information and you were so gun-ho on giving us the information on secret societies and how big of a role they play in a lot of things dealing with you know, a lot of things that we deal with on a daily basis, especially the music business, politics, and all those things. So that's one thing that drew me into you, bro. And I just want to ask you, you don't really have to go into it if you don't want to, but you know, like you said, looking back and as you got older, is that one reason? Do you think that people put people in front of you when you were young as to block you or to kind of like blacklist you or, you know, blackball you from getting on because, you know, that's just how the powers that be that work when you don't want to deal with them or you want to stay true to the art?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, it's actually the opposite. What it was I think my personality, I'm a rebel. You know what I'm saying? I always been that way. I'm an Aquarius. So I'm not good with authority. I'm always paving new roads. You put a wall in front of me, cool. I'm not gonna try to run through your wall. I'm gonna build a new one. So I was always doing that from the beginning of my rap career. And I think what it is the frequency that I give off. A lot of the brothers that was around me that wanted to bring me further in knew that that wouldn't necessarily be a good thing because of the type of person that I am when it comes to authority and being a part of certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like I never been one to be a follower. Like, and I seen one of the brothers ask. I will answer his question. He asked me why do I rock with Israel Doctrine so tight? I'm gonna be honest. When I first came onto YouTube in 2015, and was watching different platforms, if you go back to Israel Doctrine, I did an interview where I explained that I had went to a House of Consciousness event. I was invited by a sister of mine to one of their events, and I seen certain things that we see going on in a lot of ways in the community even now, from my own perspective. Now, after seeing that, I began to go on YouTube. And I got to keep it real. In 2015, there was no other platform that was a antithesis to the HOK but Israel Doctrine. He was dropping science and knowledge. He had brothers like Brother Chris over there. This is slightly before the digital pit boss era that people are aware of with Israel Doctrine. I didn't see other YouTubers, and this is not with any disrespect to any other YouTuber. There wasn't a Kev Gills. There wasn't Derek Jones or any of those guys. The only thing that I could see when I would type in like a Brother Polite pop up in my search engine was Israel Doctrine. So I began to watch his platform over some time. And because there was no one else at that time that was into that type of a dialogue and dropping that type of real knowledge about the masonry that goes on, I linked up with my brother. And me, I'm a loyalist. I don't agree with everything Israel Doctrine do, but that's the platform I came in, and he never did nothing snaky to me. See? Like, everybody got their own gripes and issues, but that's my brother. Just like Sheep Stay Sleep, he been peace with me, so I gave him the interview. I put people through a long screening process before I rock with them. I don't just rock with every old person. I've always been that way. That's not me thinking I'm better than anybody. That's just the way I've been. If you meet anybody that truly knows me, they'll tell you Skillz always been the originator dude. He stays to himself. He don't get caught up in everybody. He's either going to stand on something or he's falling for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So that's just the way it is. I think that they didn't bring me in because they kind of knew that my personality was one that was rebellious in the sense that if they let me pass certain gates, then I might speak on those gates. So, you know, as I grew up and I look back in retrospect, I feel like it was destined for me to do what I did, but also not to be brought up in hip hop as a Nas and those different dudes because of the type of frequencies that I'm on. And to a degree, I'm happy. I'm not a failed rapper. I hear a lot of people push that narrative. Again, I've sent rappers overseas. I had a German-based magazine. We were #2 in the whole country of Germany for hip-hop online, flavormag.de. I've done ringtones for artists. I did my own music. I was well known in various different circles, but that was just a personal life decision that I decided that I got tired of being the so-called Sambo nigga on stage, and I said I'll sit in the back and make the wheels turn on certain things and try to enlighten artists that want to be involved with the music business and still maybe write some songs for some artists. But outside of that, that should answer that.
Right. You definitely answered it, bro. This is my last question, and then we're gonna go to the last song we're gonna play, and then we're gonna come right back. How important, or do you think it's still important for music publication? Because I see you had your own magazine, and you know, back when I was a teenager, it was dope for us to, you know, everybody, you was the man if you had the Source magazine on the block. You was the man if you had the Vibe. What's some of the other publications? The Source, the Vibe. You even
Double
had
XL.
Double XL, the Feds magazines. How important do you think music publication is or was to the game? And do you think we still need that now?
Absolutely, you need that. And being involved with media, hosting my own radio show, owning my own magazine in a foreign country, let me say this, he who controls the media controls mass public opinion. This is something that me and my business partners understood at a very young age, and we put it into real usage and made it happen. When we were over in Germany, there was no market for certain things that we created throughout, but it came from media. It came from having a radio show. Having a radio show allowed me to interview artists, so many that I couldn't even name, that on another channel, they wouldn't have dealt with me. Because, oh, you an artist, I'm an artist, we in competition. You gotta pay me to work with me. But when my company was able to create a platform to provide them a German-based magazine, a radio show, and various different other little quirks and things, like lining them up to do tours overseas and things of that nature, that's how we pretty much were able to take a grassroots organization and make it powerful with very little money behind it. A lot of what we did was done through guerrilla marketing. Just saying, yo, we're going to put these mixtapes out and plaster everybody. And sure enough, it made the Source magazine. Then we would take my DJ Trey Under and we do a whole mixtape for an artist. Then we bring him onto my radio show and let me interview him. Then we drop him into our magazine. So mass media or any form of media is very pivotal in any field that you're in. If you could control the public opinion, and see, we wasn't doing it in a negative way. So when I say control, it's not to be like a negative in the sense that we wasn't lying about what we were pushing. We were pushing truthful hip hop and things that we were doing for real to the mass media. But of course, that controls public opinion. They call the Source at one point the hip hop Bible. If you didn't have a Source magazine, you didn't know what was going on in hip hop. Because you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have people going live on Snapchat and Facebook Live and all that. So if you could get a magazine out there and you got a reputable magazine, you could now push whatever products you want to push. If you got a radio show or a podcast show and you get your numbers popping and you get the right people on them shows, now when you say, yo, my man does this, he raps, people is going to stop and at least give you that split second to listen to what you're doing, as opposed to if you don't have media outlets. So absolutely, to me, the biggest powerhouse in getting anything out there is going to come through the media, through the press, through magazines. See, our magazine wasn't a physical mag, it was a digital PDF mag. This was when you were still using the 2G network. Now we on the 4G and 5G networks. But my company had an online magazine that you could scroll through the pages, flavormag.de, like it was a real magazine back in 2008, when these technologies was just rolling out into the palm of people's hands. So in a lot of ways, we was well ahead of our curve. People are just catching up to stuff that we was doing 8 years ago now. So media is everything when it comes down to public opinion. Not so much the control, but just public opinion. If you could put it everywhere and people could see it through mass media, you got a better chance of selling the products you're trying to sell and getting your material in the right demographics to the people that need to hear it.
Definitely, because the Source definitely was the hip hop Bible. They told you who was the next hottest shit. You know, they told you how you should dress. You know, they even had products in the back you could buy. You know, back then, you know, a couple of me and my mans, we bought fake chains from out of there. So that's real shit, bro. That's real shit. That was the hip hop Bible for us. Definitely.
Yeah, so you gotta look, me being, see, I'm a hip hop artist that grew up around certain legends, but I'm also a fan of hip hop. So at the same time, when my company was putting out promotional based mixtapes with DJ Trey Under and making the Source magazine, we used to have our slang. I was geeching in my community, like, yo, you see the Source, we in the Source. Yo, MTV Direct Effects just made our mixtapes the best one in the country. Rap City in the Basement, before Rap City in the Basement got shut off from BET, we made best mixtape in the country twice. And these were real mixtapes that were pushed by my organization. This is not me throwing it out there. Tom Signature Productions, DJ Trey Under, we swept the mixtape world after DJ Drama got raided because the bigger DJs like the K Slays and all of them, they fell back and we still had an open lane. We were the only ones still pushing promotional mixtapes. So we got to eat up the press kind of crazy. And then, like I said, me doing the hosting of the radio show on Worldcast Radio, I was knocking down all kind of barriers. Like I said, let me put it to you like this. Some people have looked at me and said, yo, you just a chat moderator on Israel Doctrine. Family, if I want to turn my YouTube channel on, I got so many interviews that are original and that you never heard them before with known artists in the rap industry, and I could upload that and have you watching. You talking about 4 years of radio, 2 hours every Wednesday night. And every show I had a new celebrity on my show. Some were phone call-ins, others, some people would come out to Long Island where we would record and do it live. Cats like Graf and all of that lived in New York that we trusted we would let come to our studio and do it with us live and stuff like that. But the amount of interviews that I have, I could upload that stuff, and I'm talking about Candy from the Real Housewives of Atlanta, some of the girls from Bad Girls Clubs, just so many interviews, man. But I didn't get on YouTube to do that. That's why I think me and Israel Doctrine also maintains a great relationship, because that's his thing. That's you brother's thing. Y'all do YouTube channels, and I'm not knocking nobody for that. But I just wanted to do this to make it clear. I could do that if I want to do that. I'm not in this for money. I have no vested monetary interest in nothing that you see me doing when you see me on social media when it comes to Israel Doctrine, Sheep Stay Sleep, or any other channels that I've supported. I don't get a dime for it. This is my community service when it comes down to stepping on certain topics and dealing with issues that I have a belief system behind. And again, I don't agree with everybody, with everything that like an Israel Doctrine does. And I don't disagree with everybody's certain gripes, but my personal relationship is that's my brother. And if you got an issue with him, you could deal with that man. Outside of that, I'm only here to support the real. You know what I'm saying? And people have their different belief systems on what's real and what's not. But again, when I got into YouTube, I didn't see no other channels talking the alternative to what I seen with my own eyes. Again, a lot of people talk about, you don't put boots on the ground. I was at an event before. Really what made me get involved with this was because of the things that I seen at the event that I didn't like in regards to our people and certain just military strategies. Even if I was pro-black and I was really trying to bang on the beast, as they say, I wouldn't be assembling with it known in the public for people to come meet together and gather while the enemy watches. So that was a big reason why I didn't make my YouTube live, because I didn't care about that. And like I said, I'm involved with certain things in the background in the music industry still. So I'm not really at a want or a need to monetize a channel or do none of that. I'm not here for that. But just so you know, if I wanted to go live on a channel and make my channel hot, I got about 2 to 3 strong years of interviews with so many known artists, I don't even remember them all. From the new boys who did Teach You How to Dougie all the way to French Montana, them artists have come on my radio show. from porn stars to R&B singers to conscious people to magazine owners. I interviewed every plethora of what you can think of in a 4-year span. And some of them was in my magazine in Germany. So.
Now salute that, bro. Definitely, definitely. I'm glad you put that out there too. Because sometimes you just gotta let people know what you about and what you have accomplished. Because a lot of people will just think you just a YouTuber and think you just doing this for YouTube, but they don't actually know who you are in real life. And it's good to let people know that. So with that, we're gonna play this last track, and then we're gonna come back to the last segment of this great interview, y'all. Make sure y'all hit the like button if y'all just tuned in. And like I said, put your comments in the box. Let the brother know how y'all feel about his music. And we're going to keep this interview going, y'all. Shout out to everybody who's supporting Sheep Stay Sleep TV and my brother Dolla Skillz. Now, that was just a dope.
That was a beat I produced. Yeah, that's a beat that I produced.
That was definitely a dope instrumental for y'all. That was fire. I always like the samples. I always like the good, the good sound effects in the music. But I'm definitely gonna play one more track.
What joint you thinking to play?
Rarely Got a Friend.
Yeah, that's a good one. Really Got a Friend is also a track that I produced. That's something that I left out of this. I also started making my own beats at certain points. That was one of them, but this is actually a full-length song called Rarely Got a Friend. It kind of has the African conga drums, but this is produced by me, and the song was written by me, Rarely Got a Friend.
So let's get into it, y'all. Rarely Got a Friend by my brother Dolla Skillz.
I only got a mic, I only got a son, I only got a gun. My enemies stay close and a lot of pork. I should've got a dog, you should've got a knife. I only got a life, it took me to the end. I'm mostly by myself, I rarely got a friend. Yo, look at who popped up in a mix with that hot stuff. The fire is hotter than 2 chicks in a hot tub. I got bugged like 3 ants and a brain man to lose out if you leave now and you don't stand in. Cats who pop lip, the reserved to get dropped quicker than hard liquor makes a nigga wanna get hot chicks. I drop this, it's a Glock album cocked, and anybody that's out spitting that pop will never not live. I got this toxic flow that I rock with. I switch chains in the cockpit like I'm flying a plane over the Arctic. Haters is heartless. My friends is rarer than an ostrich. You can walk through the streets deep like your man's gonna get dumping. How about the Jeep with the heat? And when that cat across the street really gets clapping, the dudes hit the deck. You get wet, they act like they ain't see shit happen. I really got a friend, I only got a mic. I only got a son, I only got a gun. My enemies stay close and a lot of force. I should've got a dog, you should've got a knife. I only got a life, it took me to the end. I'm mostly by myself, I really got a friend. What is it worth for your bodies and made gravy? I'm sick and tired of friends trying to straight play me. They'll give 20 but always trying to take 80. It's like a chick I just hit trying to make babies. I'm not your baby father, don't save the baby mama drama. Cause friends will play bitches over like $80. Don't get it twisted, I'm not spraying a lot of phlegm. Some people say they real, I really got a friend. I never had a home, I grew up in the streets, rubbing two nickels together to get some food to eat. Nah, I abuse the beat, I learned that from my mother and father smoking crack, always abusing me. People would laugh at the fact I ain't have that. Smile on my face, turn around, I got stabbed in the back. That's why I really love, I hold a lot of hate. Where would I be without my pen and a lot of paper? I really got a friend, I only got a mic. I only got a son, I only got a gun. My enemies stay close and a lot of force. I should've got a dog, you should've got a knife. I only got a life, it took me to the end. I'm mostly by myself, I really got a friend. I go bananas when dudes run with a crew of eights. They hit the bottom, you swear they was cool with snakes. You should've knew the barbershop was a foolish place. That's how they school you on, it's just like the beauty salon. They spread lies for attention from a bunch of guys. If you can hear what people say, you will be punching eyes. Or maybe slashing teeth, gotta pass in a squeeze. That's why you get a dog and stop from dotting eyes. Haters who plotting lies, need to get popped and die. Because the truth shines bright when it's locked inside. I am not surprised. Hope of a fake that's a snake in my face when he slips, I am not surprised. Cats who play games make me wanna spray flames. You get the paper, they'll stick you into and say things. You go broke, they'll split quick with a name change. I know you people see the same thing. I really got a friend, I only got a mic. I only got a son, I only got a gun. My enemies stay close and a lot of force. I should've got a dog, you should've got a knife. I only got a life, it took me to the end. I'm mostly by myself, I really got a friend. I really got a friend, I only got a mic. I only got a son, I only got a gun. My enemies stay close and a lot of force. I should've got a dog, you should've got a knife. I only got a life, it took me to the end. I'm mostly by myself, I really got a friend.
Yep, we back. Sheep Stay Sleep TV. My brother Dolla Skillz. That was another fire joint. Man, what I like about that song is I definitely like the African drums, but I like how you added that that funk to it. I love them funky, gritty type of beats, man, because it gives me that. It takes me back, and it gives me those pictures in my mind of like when I was young and I was listening to hip hop. You know, those songs that you wake up and you 7, 8 years old and you hear on the boom box and you like, damn, that just sounds so dope.
Well, let me say this real quick. Shout out to the homie Uncle Suge. I see you, Suge. Suge is a producer, but this might enlighten him. My company was called Time Signature Productions because me and my partners, being that they were break dancers, they would dance to different counts. So when a break dancer jumps on the dance floor, he might be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My company was called Time Signature because we produced actual beats in different time signatures. That beat you just heard was created in a waltz. which is not a 1, 2, 3, 4 count. It's a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it allowed me to swing my drums and place things in a different location in the beat than the average typical boom bap beat would, because I had the metronome, is what it's called, set up to count to the waltz, as opposed to the typical 1, 2, 3, 4 that most hip hop producers use, or they slow it up or speed it down to try to recreate that. But when you know about time signatures when producing music, it's the different counts that make for different forms of music. Whereas the classical music is in a waltz count, then you got jazz that might use a 3/4 count. We were making beats in all those different counts. So if you really had a plethora of my music, you will find that, oh, he's rapping in different counts totally on every single beat that he's rapping on, because he's not counting the same every time he attacks the beat. He's counting all the different ways you can count to a song.
And that's fire. That's fire, because that shows, that shows people taking, taking things and being more creative, man, because we definitely need that. And we need that more today in music. So, this is why, I love to interview artists and producers. And, this is what also my platform is about too, bro. It's not just about me getting up here and speaking on certain issues and waking our people up to certain things. It's also a platform for me to bring people on, to display their talents, to talk about their businesses, and just to promote them also. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely appreciate this interview. But now let's transition into, the last level of the interview and the way I like to interview. This is level 3. And we're going to take it, off of the music thing. And well, it's still going to have music in it, but we just going to get a little more political. How do you feel about Kanye West's latest statements?
Man, that's that's a good question. To be honest, I really don't feel, in the sense that, how can I put this? Though Kanye West is a well-known figure, and I could see the social media ripples that it's made, I feel like there's agendas that's pushed through certain bigger entities to make people kind of grab a hold of certain sound bites. And me, that's that rebel in me, where it's like, just because Kanye West said it doesn't mean I'm gonna chime in. But because I'm doing an interview, I'm forced. To me, to be honest with you, I think on a spiritual standpoint, once mankind kind of fell from grace with the Most High, he was bound to slavery. So when you say choice, it depends on what angle you want to talk about it from. If you want to go back in time and said that certain people had choices, then yeah, I'm gonna agree. But once those choices was made, did their offspring and the generations to follow have a choice? Maybe not so much, in the sense that we were born into a certain level of servitude. Because at the end of the day, I'll give you a basic example. You could choose not to be a slave or whatever, or say in your mind you're not a slave. But if you out there driving a motor vehicle and the cops stop you and you don't comply with certain statutes that they're running at the state level, then holler back at me. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not people moving in society with autonomy, meaning that they have diplomatic immunity and they're not subjugated to those statutes. But when you say slavery is a choice, you got to deal with it more from a technical standpoint of the legalities when it comes to the state laws and the federal laws and what political role you play. Because at the end of the day, when you hit them stop signs, if you running them stop signs and them cops pull you over, you're going to have to deal with them people. So on one hand, I agree. But again, like I said, it depends on what perspective you're looking at it from. My personal opinion is the ancestors made a choice to go against certain laws on a spiritual level. They subjugated their offspring to the things that we live in today. Can we get out of that? Yeah, but at the same time, it's going to take a lot of mobilization and it's going to take a lot of education and it's going to take a lot of changes that I don't necessarily see. And the last thing is, I think Kanye West, to a big degree, is a distraction Because when I know things from an international level, there's big power plays being made on the international scene that far eclipse Kanye's statements in the United States that people should be focused on, that get drowned in those type of viral things that get pushed out of the top tiers of corporate politics. So it's not to hate on anybody that chimed in. I'm chiming in on it. I was asked the question, but in my rebel stance, it's I don't want to talk about that, because at the end of the day, it's an agenda behind a lot of that stuff. When it's genuine, then I could rock with it. But when it's to push albums and do all kind of other things that are going on in our society, then I tend to go in the opposite direction. Like, I'll give you another example. I ain't watched Black Panther, the movie, on purpose, because I'm the rebel. Doesn't mean I won't watch it, but I'm not going to watch it because everybody else is watching it. I'll watch it in 2 years in retrospect, and then I'll get another perspective from it by not joining the crowd, so to speak, and watching it because everybody said that you should go watch it because it represents our quote unquote people. So that's the best way to answer that.
No doubt, no doubt. I totally understand that, because I'm pretty much the same way. I did a stream about it last night or whatever, and I brought the whole thing up or whatever. And I definitely think we shouldn't give a fuck what celebrities think, because at the end of the day, they don't eat what, they don't shit what we eat. So none of that shit really matters. Their opinions should not shape and mold the way we think, because like you said, there's a lot of agenda behind it. And I think the same thing. My next question is, did you see the new Childish Gambino video?
No, that I am not aware of. You gotta clue me in. I'm aware of Childish Gambino, but not the new video.
Well, the name of the song is This Is America. A lot of people they've been doing streams about it too. And he's basically in the video showing a lot of things that went on in America. And the video is very artistic. He's a very artistic dude, and he's very socially conscious. So the video was dope. I like the song. I just feel like it's agenda driven also. And I've noticed, and I said this in my stream last night, I've noticed that a lot of our conscious rappers now, they're using, certain talking points or certain things as bait to bait in people to buy their music. Because
exactly, I didn't mean to cut you, but exactly, that's kind of where I felt with Kanye. And again, if that's something that hit you and you dealt with it, I'm not here to slander or throw shots. That was just my personal opinion. To make a statement like he made, and then to release an album called Ye vs. the People, or even prior to or after, it's an agenda behind that. What more do you want to? What is it? Ye vs. the People is the name of the track. What did we miss here? You see what I'm saying? Like, in regards to media, this is back to the media question and how powerful media. When you ask me how powerful is media, look at how powerful that media is. When you have an artist of his magnitude that's put out so many hits, make a statement like he made, it goes viral. Everybody's all up in arms about it, and then at the same time, it's the release of a song that's almost identical to what you see going on in the press. Ye vs. the People. So once that starts to happen, things get weird to me, and then that's when I start to like shun away from the topic. My advice to people when it comes to a lot of these issues we see going on in our community and at large, keep your eyes focused on international news. The true players that have the power to make things roll downhill, as they say, shit rolls downhill, those moves are being made on certain news wires that really I don't see no channels in this sector talking about. And that's not a stab at any channels. It's like there's a lot of stuff happening on an international level, like things going on in the South China Sea with the U.S., things going on in Syria, and things going on in the Middle East that get cloudy when you start to get focused more on the home front and forget about the international things that are taking place. Places are being bombed right now. People is waking up with their kids in their arms because the rubble and everything fell on them. And to a large degree, they blame people like us socially for our failure to make changes politically here because we so bent up on the wrong things. So there's a lot of ways to look at it, but my advice would be that there's nothing wrong with dealing with home first, because this is where we at, but don't forget about the foreigners that have a adverse effect on the US when you see policies roll out. And this is the big thing that my company did in going overseas and messing around in countries like Germany, Amsterdam, and trying to kind of bridge that gap. Because believe it or not, I'll tell it to you like this. My father's brother was in the first Gulf War, and he stayed in Germany. Many of the troops that come from Germany, they come from Iraq, base in Germany. And you know how many black soldiers from the South stayed in countries like Germany and had kids and all of that? And we got relatives and things of that nature in these foreign countries. So it's not just like looking at it from a introverted perspective. It's also an extroverted way to look at it, or an outsider's view looking back in. You got to be able to juggle between the two before you pick up these news stories, because you can become a part of an agenda to create disillusion while other moves are being made on the international scene that we really, as a community, need to be focused on.
Yeah, my bad, bro. But yeah, I definitely, I definitely agree. And like I said, I think it's just, a new way for conscious artists to capitalize on selling records and getting people into their music, because as you could see back in the day, a lot of the conscious artists, and I'm gonna say guys like Common and hold on one second, bro.
Yeah, I guess while Sheep Stay Sleep handles that personal business, I will shout out my good people in the chat. The Underrated Darkness, thank you. Black of Black, thank you. Uncle Shug, Nerds Live, Brother Rob, and all of the people that did show love to this interview. Even the haters, you know what I'm saying? It's all love. But yeah, man. I think Sheep
I'm
Stay
back,
Sleep. You
bro.
back? All right,
Yeah.
go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was saying that, guys like Common and those guys, they really, they really never sold a large amount of records. And I think because they were conscious driven, Talib Kweli, these guys, they sold a lot of single records, but their albums wasn't going 2-3 million, 4 or 5 million. A lot of them wasn't even going platinum. And it wasn't because of their music. It was just because a lot of people in society don't gravitate to that type of music because they feel like they can't rock to it, they can't dance to it. But now I notice with the younger conscious artists, what they're doing is they're using platforms like social media, and they're using certain social talking points to put themselves out there to a point where if a Kanye West make a statement that he makes, he's going to sell a lot more records because people want to hear what he got to say now. People want to hear if he's going to elaborate on his statements. And I think that's what Childish Gambino was doing too. He's creating a bigger fan base. People who didn't listen to his music before, they're gonna give it a chance now because they want to hear what else he has to say. And I feel like that's strategical in a lot of ways too, you know?
Yeah, well, that's the agendas. And again, it's when you say like Talib Kweli didn't sell much, that's a fact. But a lot of it has to do with agendas. And this is going back to why I left, you know, hip hop music alone in a lot of ways. I guess the best way to give you an example is kind of like what made Dave Chappelle leave Comedy Central when he first left. Now, of course, he's back in the game. Who knows how that came about? But looking at it in retrospect of the timing when he left, it was because he felt like he was being solicited to do certain things that really didn't stand up to his moral and ethical fiber with regards to why he got into comedy. So what happens in the music business is you got big corporate agendas. And this is a lot of the things that I didn't like because they were forcing artists to make certain kind of songs that didn't necessarily come from the grassroots of where they were coming from and how they felt. It was more to fit that agenda and that class. No disrespect to the mumble rap. I seen people in the chat, but it's kind of like when we were coming up, our parents said music got diluted, and now we just getting older. But there is a systematic dumbing down of the people using media and music. It's plain as day to see. How is Nasty Nas, who was spitting at the caliber that he was spitting at, lower than, let's say, Amigos, because they're doing mumble rap and sold more records in a shorter span of time? You see what I'm saying? It's like there was an agenda to dumb people down once they went into the more southern-based regions and saw the big money behind those artists, because those artists were selling 500,000 records out the trunk of their car on the Chitlin circuit in the southern states and things of that nature. At the festivals, they were able to pop the trunk and go to different festivals and sell hundreds of thousands of records independent, which sent all of the major record labels down there scouting for talent. Then in the midst of doing that, they found dope rappers like Andre 3000 and Big Boy who don't really do mumble rap. They were spitting that fire. But then they found a way to create an agenda to dumb down the younger generation now by slowing the rap down, slowing the beats down, and doing all of these different things. So there's definitely a political agenda behind media and the way that music is distributed now. And I've seen a lot of that.
Exactly. I totally agree, man. So I definitely appreciate you, bro. This was a great interview, man. I love your music, love the beats, man. I'm gonna definitely check out the rest of the stuff that you sent me. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Of course, if you still here or if you just coming in, make sure y'all hit that like button. Any last words, bro, before we close out?
Nah, man, I just want to say I appreciate you, bro. You know what I'm saying? Good interview. I appreciate everybody that supported the show. You know, shout out to everybody in the chat, good or bad. Shout out to my brother Israel Doxson. I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for his platform. So it's always love. And you know, that's about it, man. Anytime you need to reach at me, you know what to do. And people don't be mad at me. I'm selective, but my good brother DS showed love over a period of time. So I gave him the love back, and I've always been that way. So I'll show more love in the future. But that's about it, man.
For sure, man. So, y'all make sure, y'all support my brother Dollar Skillz. If you just coming in, y'all might have to listen to the playback so y'all can hear the songs, y'all can hear the beats. It's definitely fire, man. I love interviewing. So anybody who wants to be interviewed here on Sheep Stay Sleep TV, whether you are artist, any type of talent you have, if you're an entrepreneur, hit me up, email me, dsalliance1@gmail.com. That's dsalliance1@gmail.com. And I'll definitely interview you and promote your business, promote your talent, or whatever you like to do. So I appreciate you again, brother Dollar Skillz, home team. As always, shout out to everybody in the chat for tuning in. And I'm gonna see y'all on the next one. This is DS1 Ross here on Sheep Stay Sleep TV. And we out, man. Peace.
Peace.
Peace, bro.